Hello and welcome to Cadbury Cocoa Life Sofa Sessions with me, Alex Jones. Now, the whole point of today is to understand how we can power up our efforts to protect the planet. By power up, I mean what ideas we can incorporate into everyday life. Now, with the end of the coronavirus, hopefully on the horizon, people are keener, it seems, to be a little bit more green and a little bit more sustainable. But the same research shows that over a quarter of us feel bombarded by messages and lots of advice, but we don't really know what to do with it. So we're going to break this down today. Now, lots of us can't afford a Tesla or to put a wind turbine in our gardens because obviously they are huge. But we've got a panel of experts today who are going to help us understand what we can do on an everyday basis to help protect the world in which we live. So we've got Kathy Peters, who is Cocoa Life Programme Lead. Morning, Kathy. We've got Laurie Lee, Chief Executive Officer of Care International UK. Morning, Laurie. And
Morning.
We've got Marguerite Groot, Communications Lead for the UNDP Green Commodities Programme. Morning, Marguerite. Good to see you all. So we've got 30 minutes, basically, to unpack all this and to talk about these power-ups. Now, people, as I said, may not know what a power-up is, but it's basically, isn't it, just good ideas, simple tips and tricks that we can use every day to make the world a better place. So, Kathy, let's start with you because you are the boss. You're in charge of this programme, which you'll tell us a bit more about in a second. But as consumers, when we go into a shop and we pick up a product, why is it really important that we understand the impact of what we're buying and how that product has a wider impact?
Sure. Yes. Hi, Alex. Good morning. And yes, I am responsible for the implementation of the Cocoa Life program, which is the green logo you have perhaps already seen on your Cadbury bar. Now, it's interesting how when consumers enjoy their beloved piece of chocolate, they don't always realize how the main ingredient, cocoa, is grown and the impact it has on people and the planet. So let me try to help you provide a little bit of context. And maybe I'll start with a fact that will help bring some perspective. Globally, 4.5 billion tons of cocoa are grown by about 4.5 million cocoa farmers. Cocoa grows on a tree, preferably in a forest around the equator. Most of the cocoa is grown in West Africa, mainly Ghana and Ivory Coast, on small pieces of farmland that are almost all run by a family and located in very remote communities of developing countries. So I think you can start to feel how cocoa farming families and their communities face several complex and interrelated challenges.
Absolutely.
Let me give you a few highlights. The farm productivity is underdeveloped. Yields remain very low, as there has been very limited knowledge of modern farming techniques. There's also little access to planting materials, new seedlings, to replant the aging orchards, or even fertilizer or crop protection, which is important because pest and disease are very present in cocoa farms, and they often lead to farmers losing some of their harvest. And it's also very difficult for these farming families to access financial services. Now, climate change is further exacerbating the situation as land available to grow cocoa on decreases. And moreover, the communities that cocoa farmers live in oftentimes lack infrastructure, such as quality schools to ensure quality education, running water, proper roads, or even a health center. So to wrap it up, poverty remains the biggest challenge, driven by all these root causes that I've just been describing.
I think, Kathy, most of us had an idea about how communities are affected in terms of what you were mentioning, the poverty, the education for the children. But I don't think we really understand, even something like a bar of Cadbury's chocolate, it feels like something that's made a long, long way away. And by the time you're unwrapping it, you know, watching TV at night, you don't really consider the people who've put the time and effort into making it. So that's very interesting to hear. But what you're doing is teaming up with Laurie and Magritio, who we'll hear from in a sec, to bring their expertise into the programme as well. And Laurie, you work with Care International, and that's basically looking after the well-being of these communities, the people who work within these communities, isn't it? Tell us a bit about what you do exactly.
Thank you, Alex. So the partnership between Care and Cadbury dates back 75 years. Care was set up after the Second World War by people in America who wanted to help people in Europe. We were still suffering food shortages and rationing even long after the war was over. And about 400,000 British families received care packages. And in fact, the Queen wrote to Care a letter in 1947 before she was even crowned. In fact, just 1 week after her wedding to Prince Philip, saying thank you to Care for sending those care packages to widows and children in the UK. And those care packages were filled with food, including many brands you would recognise today, including Cadbury's chocolate.
Amazing.
So 75 years later, we're still working with Cadbury's. Now, we're not giving away the chocolate anymore. You have to buy that for yourself. And today, Care is working with the communities that grow the cocoa that goes into those chocolate bars. And we're mainly working in those communities in Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana, which, as Kathy said, grow more than half of the world's cocoa. And thanks to Cocoa Life, Care has worked with more than 200 communities. And that's over 200,000 people in those countries. And I've visited one of those communities in Côte d'Ivoire and seen firsthand how Cocoa Life helps. I visited a village called Batagada. As Kathy says, it's quite remote in the forest, a whole day's drive from the capital city. And as you arrive and get out of the car, you're immediately hit with the smell of chocolate.
Delicious.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's so fresh. So it's a simple village. The homes are built with handmade clay bricks. Most of the houses have thatch roofs. A few people can afford steel roofs. And one of the immediate signs as you walk into that village that it's doing well is that almost every house had a solid concrete built latrine, a toilet, and so they could be safe and hygienic. And that's a really good sign that the community is doing well, because that wouldn't be true in every single village. Now, we spoke to some of the farmers, and they told us that Cocoa Life had improved their agriculture skills so they could grow more cocoa and do it more sustainably and in a more environmentally friendly way. And as a result of that, they'd improved their productivity by threefold in just 3 years. And you can imagine what that means in terms of, improved income for the household. But these communities need other support as well. And Cocoa Life is really pioneering by providing a wide range of different support to the communities. And one of Care's roles, because it's the way Care works all over the world, is to let the communities decide what their priorities are and what help they need.
So what are their priorities, Laurie?
So a couple of examples. Children are a priority for all communities in Britain here and in Côte d'Ivoire. By ensuring that children have birth certificates, we could ensure that all of them were enrolled to go to primary school. And by refurbishing the classrooms in the local school, we could make sure that the teachers had somewhere to teach those children. And so the children were going to school. One of the other things is that women in these communities do about half of the work on the cocoa farm, but they may earn none of the income from selling that cocoa because the law usually doesn't allow them to own the land. Now, Care and Cocoa Life promote gender equality as part of this program. We work with couples in the community, and now more couples are sharing the decisions about how that cocoa income is used for the family. We also set up something called Village Savings and Loans Associations. And this allows a group of women from the village to come together. They save a small amount of money each month. And between them, that means they can create a small pot of money, which they can take turns to borrow from, set up or grow a small business that's in addition to the family farm. And that does two great things. One is it gives those women more economic independence because they own that business and the income, and can control the income that's coming from that business. Secondly, because it's a different kind of business, it evens out the family's income, because one of the things about being a farmer is that all of your income comes in one big go when you sell your harvest. Now, cocoa harvests twice a year. If you imagine how difficult it would be if you had to kind of manage your money if you were only paid in two big lump sums twice a year, very, very difficult. And by having different kinds of businesses, it might be a different kind of agricultural business, maybe like chickens, where the income is much more regular, you're selling eggs all the time, or it might not be an agricultural business, it might be providing more of a service maybe to other members of the community. And then you have a different type of income and something much more regular, which is a good balance with the twice a year income that you get from cocoa harvests. And so through these various ways, we can help those families.
As I said to Kathy's wider answer earlier, you really don't understand the impact and the work that needs to be done, do you? And as a single person, as a consumer listening to this, you do sort of feel helpless because you think, well, how can, you know, what I do and buying a single bar of chocolate possibly help, you know, help huge swathes of people in Ghana, for example. But we'll get on to actually the logo that we should be looking out for, Kathy, a little bit later. So you tackle the people and the care of the people, but of course it extends also into the environment and how producing chocolate has such an impact on the environment. So that's where, Kathy, you've then got Marguerite on the other side to help the project as well. So Marguerite, would you like to just explain to everybody watching exactly what it is you do and what organisation you head up?
So UNDP as such may not sound so familiar, but we're part of the United Nations and we want to end the injustice of poverty, inequality and climate change. And our focus is therefore nations to build really lasting solutions for people and planet. Now, the program I'm specifically part of helps address sustainability challenges such as deforestation of so-called highly traded raw material. Now, think cocoa, but also coffee, palm oil, soya, beef, really everyday ingredients you find in many products in the supermarket. And we work with these raw materials in 10 of those in about 17 countries. Now, Alex, did you know deforestation is the second largest driver of climate change after burning fossil fuels? And actually, by far, raw materials like palm oil or soy are a main driver of tropical deforestation, almost 75%. So the challenge is huge.
So can I ask just at that point, so should we as consumers be avoiding, I mean, we know a bit about palm oil because that has been on our radar for a little while now, but I wasn't so aware about soy. So are we saying that we should be avoiding those products completely, or is there a green way in which to still enjoy some of these products?
So don't forget that there is millions of people on this planet who actually depend for their livelihoods, for their income, on the production of those raw materials. So by saying no to them, you're also saying no to these people.
Yeah.
So the way to tackle the challenge is to improve the lives of those farmers and their communities, while at the same time protecting forest and vulnerable ecosystem. And it's important to put the two together, right? Because people won't care for their environment if they're going hungry. So we have people and planet in parallel.
So what are you doing specifically then with Cocoa Life, with Kathy, to support the Cadbury project?
So we're very proud of being a partner to Cadbury and to Cocoa Life already since the beginning for more than 10 years now. And we started in Ghana, following in Dominican Republic and Cote d'Ivoire. And specifically in Ghana, we've been very ambitious together. because we want to bring large-scale agricultural change by combining, again, forest protection, forest conservation, and improving livelihoods. And one way we've been doing that is reintroducing something that is called the shade tree, and it's something that is critical, that is needed for cocoa to grow, also sustainably. It also means we've been training farmers to increase their knowledge and their capabilities. Almost close to 100,000 farmers in more than 500 communities have been trained. And we've been supplying these so-called seedlings, tree seedlings, already more than 1.3 million to these farmers. And they have also planted them, but also registered these trees.
So why do these farmers need to register the trees then?
So it might surprise you actually, but in Ghana, if you plant a tree, even if you planted it, it does not necessarily mean you own it. So that means also somebody else can cut it down. In the case of a timber tree, that's something you can sell. So therefore, it's vital that they register these trees. And we've been focusing so much on these trees because we're very positive in the longer term. They will provide also an additional income for thousands of families. These shade trees and registering and planting them, and the partnership with Cocoa Life is also an example of, if you work with governments, you can reset the rules that both benefit farmers and the environment. Deforestation is a really complex problem, and it really requires everyone in the sector to be involved, to collaborate together if we want to solve such complex problems the cocoa sector faces.
Okay. I mean, hearing the three of you talk is both inspirational and quite scary because, for us here in the UK, even though the message is coming through clearer and louder than ever before, it still feels like a long way away and issues that don't sort of affect us on a daily basis. But hearing it from the three of you who are heading up these organisations is very interesting. I still think, though, that like myself and people watching this will feel like such a small part of, the cog in the big chain of stuff that, you wonder, does what we do, does it have enough of an impact? Does it, because lots of people that I've spoken to will think, well, I do, I recycle, I turn the lights off, I turn my washing machine down to 30, but actually, is there any point? Does it get us anywhere? And of course, Kathy, you would completely disagree with that and say that, all these little things are vital. However, it feels like there's a new generation now of ideas. We all know about that sort of stuff, turning the lights off, taking a bag for life to the supermarket. But what are the new power-ups that we can be doing here in the UK to help support you guys in the fantastic work that you're doing?
Yes, you are right. And I think more than ever, as you were mentioning earlier, Alex, with hopefully the end of COVID in sight, and picking up these important topics, we've seen in a new research from Cadbury that Brits are more socially conscious than ever before, actually. 60% of adults admit they are more aware of protecting the planet, yet they worry that the little actions they do each day don't actually make a difference. It's also interesting to see, as the research revealed, the top 30 actions that Brits have taken to live more sustainably. And out of the 30, may be interesting to know the top three were, as you were saying, taking reusable bags to the supermarket, turning the lights off when you leave a room, and turning the tap off when you brush your teeth. All good things.
Yeah, those are the things that most of us do, I think. But yeah, as I said, you do think, is it enough though? I mean, it seems like a tiny thing. Is it enough? Are there sort of new things that we can add in to those things that we're already doing to kind of increase the impact that we have and the effort that we put in as individuals?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's interesting to look at the list of 30 and particularly to look at the 5 that ranked the least used by consumers. which were driving an electric or hybrid vehicle, looking for clothing brands from the fair wear list, switching to green banking, purchasing denim from brands that source sustainable cotton and repair your jeans, and finally, buying sustainably sourced chocolate. Now, actually, that is a true power-up that most people may not be aware of. And you can actually easily power up yourself when you see the Cocoa Life logo on a Cadbury pack, your favorite Cadbury pack. That is where you will know that we, behind that logo, work to drive impact in the communities that grow and harvest the cocoa.
And just in case anybody watching this doesn't realize what you mean by the logo, we will all have seen it, but probably not realize what we're looking at, because on every Cadbury's product, there's this sort of little green leaf, isn't there? And it's on every chocolate bar, you know, a selection box at Christmas, your Easter eggs, what have you. It's always there, isn't it?
Yes, Alex, indeed. All Cadbury Dairy Milk cocoa is sustainably sourced through Cocoa Life. Every bar, sharing bag, gift box, the Christmas selection boxes, and your Easter eggs. But it means a lot. It's a small logo on the pack. There is a huge effort that Cadbury puts in behind. Actually, since 2012, we launched the Cocoa Life program in partnerships with experts such as CARE and UNDP, and actually very much in line with the Cadbury brothers' legacy, because we work together with the men and women who grow our cocoa. And Cocoa Life improves the livelihoods of cocoa farming families. To address the challenges that I described earlier, we focus on three main areas. Cocoa farming to become more productive and to become a genuine, profitable business. Communities where those farmers live in to become more resilient and empowered to drive and steer their own development. And of course, underpinning all of this work, protecting and restoring the forests. So those are the three key areas that Cocoa Life addresses in the different countries that we operate in.
Okay. Okay. It's amazing to think that, you know, I had no idea before doing this that buying one single bar of chocolate would really have such a big impact. I had no idea that the cocoa industry produced in some way so many problems, you know, that you're all trying to solve, but you know, you just don't realize that at all as a consumer. And I think, you know, we've come a long way in this last sort of 25 minutes in helping people like myself understand that, which is brilliant. But before we go, I wondered, because we have got three brilliant experts on the panel this morning, I wondered whether you could all give a couple of top power-up tips. You know, new stuff, like you were talking about the denim, Kathy, and I had no idea until very recently that denim is one of the worst culprits when it comes to production. But if you could give us your top two, maybe, starting with yourself, Laurie, that people can take away today and just combine into their everyday life and add to what they're already doing. So, Laurie, over to you.
Well, as we've been discussing, you know, I think one of the most important things people can do when they're shopping is just to ask and find out more about where has this product come from, who made it or who grew it, were they treated fairly, is the product made in a green, climate-friendly way. This applies to chocolate, but it applies to everything else that we buy in the shops. So CARE works with Cadbury, but we also work with lots of other companies around the world, helping farmers who might supply food or agriculture to big brands that you see on your supermarket shelves. So, for example, we work with Twinings to ensure that the women working in tea farms in Sri Lanka aren't just picking the leaves, but sometimes they can also become the managers.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and we work in factories in Bangladesh and other countries that make clothes that we might be buying in Marks and Spencer's, and we're there ensuring that the women have access to healthcare, safe working conditions, and good dignified work. And you don't have to be an expert, I think, is the important message to give people to ask that question. The onus is on the company to be able to to tell you what is their story. And I think, hesitate if the company doesn't have a story at all. If they can't tell you where something has come from, then that's something to be worried about.
Yeah.
There's a different thing I wanted to mention. Also, if you wanted to go straight to helping some of the people who are maybe are those small farmers or who run their own small businesses around the world, we have a program called lendwithcare.org, and you can go there to support individual small entrepreneurs working around the world by just lending them as little as £15 to help them grow their business, support their family, and create jobs for their communities.
Amazing. And, all of that for just £15, you could change the course of somebody's life, couldn't you? You could really set them up on a path. But I think what was interesting about what you were saying, Laurie, is, about asking questions, because I think we're too used to going into a supermarket or a local shop and just sort of accepting what's there in front of us on the shelves, picking what we would normally. Everybody's in that sort of routine where you tend to pick the same products without questioning it too much. And I hope people will go away from this session and think about everything they pick up, read the label, and, as you say, Laurie, if in doubt, ask the people who run the shop, where it's come from, where it was made. And importantly, I think what we've learned today, was it made fairly and in a green way? So those are really brilliant tips. Thank you, Laurie, for that. We'll come to you, Marguerite. What do you think? 2 top power-up tips.
Well, I would very much agree with what you, Alex, and Laurie say, that you as a consumer, even though you may feel like, a tiny fly on the wall, you have a huge impact in any purchasing decision. So it's not, at a minimum, you should buy your chocolate, sustainably, but don't underestimate products or brands for cosmetics, or even think about washing detergents. My rule of thumb is, if I, check the ingredients list and check for labels to give you any clues as you buy products, or if you scan the shelf, because if those products are not harmful for you, they're probably also not harmful for the environment.
That's brilliant, because actually, especially with clean washing detergent and cleaning products, I think people are even in more of a routine when it comes to that sort of stuff. And you tend to replicate what your parents and maybe grandparents used before, and families tend to use the same products, just going down the generations, because you think, well, that's what works. Everybody's in a rush. In a supermarket, I'll just grab what's available. I mean, luckily, I'm married to a bit of a green crusader who is always checking labeling, also wants to know where things have come from, where things have been made. And when I told him about this, he was really interested. He said, it'd be great to know what else we can be doing. So lovely. Thank you, Marguerite, for those tips. And Kathy, finally, to come back to you then, who heads up this project. I feel that you're going to give me 2 amazing top power-up tips to add to our already expanding repertoire.
Well, you will not be surprised that I have one major power-up, which is to really look for the Cocoa Life logo when choosing your Cadbury, your favorite Cadbury chocolate. Of course, because by doing so, and you can trust that Cadbury is creating a long-term sustainable transformation, because we do invest in providing access to good agricultural and environmental practices, planting material, fertilizer, to increase the productivity. And we do pay an additional premium to the farmers, and all of that leads, because we measure the impact of what we do. And we know that, for example, in Ghana, we have been able to increase the household income by 22%. More than the national average, which is a lot. I mean, just imagine that you're earning 22% more. That would make me happy. Today, we're working with almost 200,000 cocoa farmers and their communities. So in the communities, we work with people like CARE, with organizations like CARE, who make sure that the development structures in the communities are strengthened, that we do a needs assessment to understand what the needs are of these communities, that the communities are empowered to drive their community action plans. It's so good to see that in the more than 2,000 Cocoa Life communities that we now work in, almost all of them have delivered their development plans, and most of them have actually found funding for their community action plans within the government. So that's how you create lasting change. I do want to talk about women's empowerment, which is a cross-cutting theme across the program, because it's a real, women are impact enablers across whatever we do. And we make sure that we're deliberate about including women in anything we do. We want to make sure, and we've actually created opportunities for women to take on leadership roles in their communities, but also, just as Laurie was explaining, making sure that we support women groups in the creation of their small businesses so that they can earn additional income for the household. And then quickly, we also make sure that, as I was saying, the forest, that we're bringing the forest back, not only protecting it, but also bringing it back. And so we as a program have mapped all of the Cocoa Life farms. Actually, you can have a look at our interactive farm map at the Cocoa Life website, where you can actually see where the Cocoa Life farms are located across the world. But we've also invested in planting, the work we do with UNDP. We've invested in distributing and planting new economic trees to help restore the forest. And by now, across our across the origins, the countries we work in, we've distributed 2.2 million trees. And we've also developed a system where farmers and communities are economically rewarded by a premium when they replant native trees. So in a nutshell, look for the Cocoa Life logo on your Cadbury brand. Go look what it does to hundreds of thousands of people in the communities that we grow our cocoa, that we source our cocoa from. And just remember that at Cocoa Life, it's really all about teaching to fish rather than giving fish.
I like that, Kathy. So yeah, so basically, I mean, buy in a simple bar of chocolate with that green logo on it. We are helping farmers, be them women or men. We are, as you said, raising their potential income by 22%. We are making sure that their children get an education, all the things that we take for granted living here, snuggled on our sofas, eating delicious Cadbury chocolate. But, you know, but by buying the right one and making those right choices, we can really help the wider community as well, which is brilliant. And I think the message is really simple. Thank you so much this morning for all your tips there as well. I certainly will be incorporating them into my everyday life, as I'm sure everybody who listens to this will be inspired to do. And if you want more information, it's all available for you on the website cadbury.co.uk/Cocoa Life. Thank you so much, and great to talk to you all, Laurie, Kathy and Margaret. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.